Hey there, thank you so much for joining us tonight. In an unprecedented move, President Trump says he's fired a governor of the Federal Reserve in an escalation over the independent institution. Overnight, Trump posted an apparent termination letter online saying that he removed Lisa Cook over allegations that she committed mortgage fraud. But there are questions over whether the president had the authority to remove her. Cook's legal team says she intends to challenge the president's move. At the White House, the president hosted the 7th cabinet meeting on his second administration, where our chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes asked Trump about the concerns that this move is political.
Is your administration weaponizing government by digging into the mortgage records of officials you don't like?
No, they're public. I mean, you can find out those records. You can go check out the records yourself. And you should be doing that job, actually. You wouldn't do that because that's not the kind of reporter you are. But you should be doing that job. I shouldn't have to be doing it. If you did your job properly, we wouldn't have problems like Lisa Cook.
Under federal law, Fed board members serve for 14-year terms. They can only be fired by the president for cause. Cook has served on the Fed since being appointed to complete another member's unexpired term in 2022. Her current term would run until 2038. Also during the cabinet meeting, the president said the federal government would seek the death penalty for any murders committed in Washington, D.C. It's the latest move in his administration's crackdown on crime in the nation's capital. Meanwhile, a federal judge has thrown out a lawsuit brought by the Justice Department against the entire Maryland federal bench over an immigration order. The Trump administration had claimed the Maryland court had exceeded its authority when it imposed a temporary freeze on deportations for any migrant who filed a petition challenging their detention. The judge dismissed that argument and said the suit was potentially calamitous. The DOJ says it intends to appeal the decision. We have a lot of news to get to, but let's begin with CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro. So, Aaron, good to have you back on the air. What is the White House saying about the president's decision to fire Lisa Cook?
Tom, good evening. Good to be with you. You saw in that marathon cabinet hearing, President Trump take a couple questions about it, and he kind of retreated to talking about the reason behind this firing, that mortgage fraud allegation that was brought by Federal Housing Finance Director Bill Pulte, essentially saying that Cook took out mortgages for 2 homes in 2021, and then the applications for those mortgages listed both as her primary residence. Trump said that Cook, given her position on the board of an agency, the Federal Reserve, that supervises banks and mortgages, can't have that kind of, quote, infraction or allegation. He later added, quote, "We need people that are 100% above board." He later said that he was, quote, always ready for any legal fight because Cook, as you mentioned, and her attorneys have indicated that they will file a legal challenge to this, saying that they believe there is no basis for this firing, and has essentially rejected the option of leaving her role or resigning, as President Trump says he has fired her.
You know, Aaron, we both listened in on the president's press conference earlier in the day. The president repeated his displeasure with Fed Chair Jerome Powell, and he said Powell needs to step down. Is the White House signaling any more attempts to change the leadership of the Federal Reserve?
Right now, it seems that they are focused on the Board of Governors. As at one point, Trump said in that cabinet meeting, quote, "We'll have a majority very shortly," and then saying that once he gets more of his appointees in there, that housing is going to swing. All of this in reference to the Federal Reserve essentially cutting interest rates, which is what President Trump has pushed for. He also indicated that he might have Stephen Miron, a White House economic advisor that he originally tapped to replace another governor who stepped down from the Federal Reserve Board, to essentially replace Cook. He overall said that he will talk to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent about who he will pick for this role. But the president is not hiding here. He sees an opportunity to remake the partisan makeup of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, which, counting Cook and the vacancy, is split among party lines 3-3.
Yeah, certainly a busy day out of the White House. Aaron Navarro, we appreciate you staying on top of everything. And I want to dig in a little further. CBS News senior business and technology correspondent Ling Kent joins me now. Ling, good to see you. Can you first lay out what the president's role is in selecting Federal Reserve governors and if he can actually fire them like he's attempting to do with Lisa Cook?
Well, to answer that second question, they can be fired based off of malfeasance, removed. But that definition of what malfeasance actually is up for debate, especially as this enters the court system, with Lisa Cook saying through her attorney that she does plan to sue. We also have some new reporting tonight on the status of Governor Cook when it comes to her ability to do the work going forward. You know, President Trump has said that he has fired her effective immediately, but according to a source directly familiar, Lisa Cook still has access to her office in Washington at the Fed, and the Fed, according to this source, has deferred a decision about her status, which the source said means that nothing has changed in the Fed's view regarding how Cook is able to carry out her duties as a Federal Reserve Board governor. So that is the current status as we know it when it comes to Cook. But look, yes, there's 7 members of the Board of Governors on the Federal Reserve System. They are nominated by the president, they're confirmed by the Senate, and they serve single 14-year terms. Obviously, President Trump sees an opportunity here to have a longer-term impact. The more people he can appoint, the more influence he can have. But a lot of economists and economic circles are telling me, look, they are worried about the independence of the Fed. And if that disintegrates in any way, that could be bad for the economy and a worrisome issue when it comes to what happens with the economy if you tie interest rates to politics.
Yeah, that's a really interesting update you're reporting there, Joe Ling. You know this better than anyone. The Federal Reserve is such a linchpin in the economy here. What has this done to shake the confidence of the financial system, if at all?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of concern about the longer term impact of what something like this could do. You know that this is headed for the courts, and the Fed is not going to take any action until there's a court decision. And so as we follow along on this front, we'll be watching where the markets are. But right now, we're expecting the Federal Reserve to do what President Trump wants, but on the Fed's own terms come mid-September. The CME Fed Watch is expecting, by and large, there's going to be a interest rate cut come mid-December at that September 17th press conference. And so we do expect to see that. But this comes as the Fed chair and the entire FOMC is trying to juggle these two concerns: inflation still being above their 2% target, as well as the labor market showing cracks when it comes to its ability to maintain full employment. So with this dual mandate, these two goals that the Fed is trying to achieve, you put in all of these political statements from the president and the immense pressure over so much time, it certainly puts a new level of challenge on the Fed to carry out their job. But we do expect to see a Fed rate cut for all those people out there looking for a better rate on their mortgage or their auto loan or credit card debt. We do expect to see that come down just a little bit September 17th.
No one better than you to break down the contours of this developing story. Joe Ling Kent reporting for us. Thank you, Joe Ling.